Scarcity is productive if we know how to use it. Too much scarcity is deconstructive. It can be very, very, very bad. Abundance is great, and that's what a lot of us are after. But too much abundance will create us, or it'll create the opportunity for us to stop doing the stuff that brought us abundance in the first place.
Buy a fixer-upper and invest in real estate. And then you can talk about that on your YouTube channel. See how it all feeds? This person is the right amount of engaged. Not so overwhelmed where they can't move and can't do anything, but not so bored that they're just sitting at home dreaming and just dreaming but not taking any action. That's what this episode's about.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode number 1546, one big thing that holds us back from starting. Today, for episode number 1547, scarcity, abundance, and how they affect your growth. I had a call last night with a client who has decided they don't want to do their podcast anymore. And it was kind of based on my advice, I guess a piece of it, my advice. So I was very happy for them. I said, I'm going to keep helping you no matter what you need. I'm always a message away. Let me know. And I said, I don't know if this is a real thing, but this is what my mind is thinking right now, based on your circumstances. I said, I wonder if misaligned abundance is better for you than aligned scarcity. And I said, let me just go into what that means for me. I don't know.
That's good stuff right there.
It's pretty good stuff.
That was good stuff right there.
But I did tell you that the story might be the opposite of what we're kind of talking about in the episode, but I think we'll be able to connect it. This is someone who left their job and has been living off of savings for like the last several years.
Mm-hmm. Been there.
Didn't really have... It's almost like they didn't have enough necessity or scarcity to do the things they needed to do to be successful in their business. Now
also
they have also been there, but now they have too much scarcity, where it's kind of too late. Been there too. Okay, for them, getting a job is aligned. Getting a job is misaligned abundance. What does that mean? It means you're not working on your dreams, but you have enough money to support yourself, and the job is misaligned enough where you're not living in anxiety, but you're also not super happy with the job. So it gives you an opportunity to make money, and it gives you the necessity to say, I don't really want to do this for the rest of my life. I have a runway to live off of so I can actually make effective decisions, but I don't want to be here forever. And that really was my goal by saying, I think it's better for you to have misaligned abundance where you have money and you can dream chase and build your thing rather than just having all the time in the world but no necessity. You have no necessity. You have no necessity, and then it gets to the point where the scarcity is too high for you to do anything, and I think it can be a challenging thing. Now, I know that's not where you wanted to go with this episode necessarily, but I did think it was an appropriate story.
Well, I'll try to connect it.
Real
quick first, though, did you notice that StreamYard kicked out? Was that on my end?
I think that was on your end. Your Wi-Fi is terrible.
We just got a new router. It is in a box downstairs. It is not yet.
I was going to say, you know a lot about technology and stuff, and you have to actually wire it and plug it in for it to work.
You do?
Yeah.
yeah,
take it out of the box.
Yes, of course. I hadn't thought of that. No, this week has been
a lot.
I know you are. I know. But I also want to make sure that our listeners know that you're just teasing and that I actually know that I have to take it out of the box. Anyways, so I'll try to connect it. So the idea underneath this, I was trying to explain this to Kev before we jumped on the microphone, and we got to go fairly quick with it because Kev's got a coaching session.
Yeah, I have some stuff I have to do for clients. It's been a week. It has been a week for NLU, Kevin Allen. It's just there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're juggling right now.
Tough season. And how many times can I say and?
And.
The meaning behind this episode is this. We want things, unconsciously I think we want things to be easier. But what we don't realize sometimes is that easier is not necessarily better. And here's why. On one end, you have kind of an easy life and everything's rolling and you're almost bored. It's like uncomfortable how easy things are. You're almost a little bit bored. You're not engaged. You're not super dialed in. You're not super challenged. You're not getting tough workouts in. You're not stretched that thin. Your calendar's looking a little empty. It's kind of like crickets, you know? And then on the other extreme end, you're so spread thin, like Kevin and I this week with an event coming up on Sunday, where you're so spread thin that Kev earlier this week texted me. He said, dude, I got to clear my calendar of some stuff. So I just, firefighter went to our calendars and just deleted him off of everything that I possibly could that wasn't immediately important. And we are constantly dancing between those two extremes. On one end, you're kind of bored and your future's taking a hit because you're just kind of relaxing a little too much. You're overdoing it. Okay, I've been there. You're really overdoing it. And again, this is unique to each of us because we all have our own goals and dreams. If you're trying to climb Mount Everest, it's going to be a different R&R than if you're trying to climb Mount Wachusett or something like that. It's just a metaphor here. So, but your intuition knows when you're really letting it ride and you're kind of just relaxing and, you're reading a lot of books or you're watching a lot of movies or you're watching that Netflix series. I'll give this as an example. I remember when Matthew McConaughey came out with his book, Green Lights. I don't know if it's something I would or wouldn't recommend at this point, but I remember I couldn't put the book down. And I remember at one point it was like, all right, Alan, you really need to work. You can't just read books. Okay. And that's my own self-talk. Okay. There's phases in life where you're either too relaxed, too easy, everything's a little too easy, but then it flips the other way and all of a sudden you have too many clients and you have too much work and you have too much of a to-do list and too big of a team and now it's like mayhem and you don't know how to handle it all. Which one's better? And that's the philosophical question. Which one's better? The sweet spot is in between those. So you want to try to be dialed in and engaged and charged and challenged on a day-to-day basis. You can't go through life without challenges. You're not going to grow. You're not going to grow. But you can't be so overwhelmed that you just want to eat food and watch Netflix. So you kind of we all have to play this little game where we are constantly designing and redesigning our life in this challenge skills sweet spot where we're not bored and we're definitely engaged and we're definitely working hard, but not so much where we're burning down and burning to the ground constantly. And that's the episode that we've done a lot.
What's going on, guys? My name is Austin, and I've been working with Kevin for a few months now. If there's one thing that I find super valuable is his expertise on how to position the podcast to the right audience and fit the content into the overall business plan. And frankly, when we work together, he challenges me a lot. There were some tough conversations that he initiated with me so that I can really grow in the business. Besides the coaching part, the editing team does amazing work with editing and show notes and staying on top of all communications. Overall, my experience working with Kevin has really been top-notch.
Kevin brought in another layer, which is, I would rather you be misaligned and abundant than scarce alignment. And I think that if we can bring this other sort of olive branch, I'll give an example of a client of mine. I have a client of mine who wants to invest in real estate. Has some capital, but not enough. Also is waiting for the real estate market to change a bit. I said, in the meantime, we can't just have you sitting around. We got to get you making some short-term profitability. And so we have him doing DoorDash. So this is a shout-out anonymous, but it's so cool because I'm like, wait a minute. You love motorcycles. You love cars. You love personal development. You want to invest in real estate, and you love doing DoorDash, listening to books. I said, imagine this. He's like, I want to start a YouTube channel. I want my YouTube channel. And I said, that's a long play. You're not going to make short-term money on a YouTube channel. You're just not. Okay? It's very, very rare. It's possible, but it's very, very rare. So what if you did this? What if you DoorDashed on your motorcycle, be safe, while he said he wants to get a microphone in his helmet and he wants to have a GoPro and he wants to do, he's going to call it two-wheel therapy. and he's going to talk about personal development and hyperconscious stuff while on his motorcycle.
Love that.
And I said, imagine if you did that while doing DoorDash. So you're making short-term money and long-term money simultaneously while growing a brand and a business. That is the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot. You're not bored at home dreaming about real estate. And by the way, when you make the short-term money on DoorDash, you're going to buy a fixer-upper and invest in real estate. And then you can talk about that on your YouTube channel. See how it all feeds? This person is the right amount of engaged, not so overwhelmed where they can't move and can't do anything, but not so bored that they're just sitting at home dreaming and just dreaming but not taking any action. That's what this episode's about.
There is a quote that I've heard before, and again, I don't know if I agree with any quote ever 100%, but it's kind of what we're talking about in this analogy. Hard times create strong people create good times create weak people, and weak people create hard times. Have you heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know. I mean, it's a very blanket statement, but
it's a cyclical thing in the economy, though.
But yeah,
that's a thing.
If you think of someone who had a really challenging life, and they had to work for everything they ever had, and eventually they get to the point where they become successful, whatever that means to them. But let's just say financially successful. Then they have children. And the way they raise those children is you don't have to work for anything. Everything's going to be amazing. You don't have to do anything. Life is going to be super easy and everything's provided to you. I'm willing to bet those children are eventually going to grow up into adults who probably aren't super capable. Blanket statement, just, for lack of better phrasing. Then when they have children, what's going to happen to their children? They're not really going to have any work ethic. And I would say that's kind of what we're talking about in this episode. If you're too scarce and you're not sure you're going to be able to keep the lights on for the next week, that's obviously going to affect your growth in many, many, many ways. Maybe some positive, definitely some negative. If you're so abundant where you never, ever, 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 ever have to worry about, again, the lights going off, just as an analogy here, it might be really good for you, but it might not be as good for your growth because there isn't any necessity. Too much necessity facilitates... It's not great. I mean, it's going to facilitate stuff that isn't sustainable and it might not be healthy for you. Too much abundance is going to create no necessity, where you don't really have to do anything because everything's going to be fine the way it is, quote unquote. That is really what that quote means to me. When I hear that quote, I don't really like... I understand. And unfortunately, it's strong men create good times. I don't like the strong men label. So strong people create good times, whatever it may be. But that's my next level nugget in this episode. Scarcity is productive if we know how to use it. Too much scarcity is deconstructive. It can be very, very, very bad. Abundance is great, and that's what a lot of us are after. But too much abundance will create us, or it'll create the opportunity for us to stop doing the stuff that brought us abundance in the first place.
Yep. Very well said.
I appreciate that very much.
Too much abundance creates complacency.
Fair.
It does. We've been there in business. We had a big month, and you and I stepped off the gas, man. We did. We stepped off the gas, and we paid for it 2 quarters later.
Yeah, definitely.
And too much scarcity, we've also been burning down, and it's too much, and we can't function, and we need to, eat extra food, probably more foods that we shouldn't be eating, just to emotionally cope. And so how do we all self-manage, self-lead, and keep ourselves in the challenge skills sweet spot where you're having tough workouts, you're doing tough workouts, but there's a big difference between I have to run this 5K for my own survival and I'm going to die if I don't, versus I want to challenge myself with a 5K. Versus, you know what, I'm going to run a half mile. Maybe the half mile is too easy and you're not going to grow. Maybe the 5K for your survival, being chased by a bear, is detrimental and you're going to get injured and or killed. Maybe the 5K where you're challenging yourself and then eventually more than a 5K and maybe timing yourself. I remember I did a 5K a couple summers ago and I ended up with, a 22 or something, or 21. And I remember thinking to myself, if I did it the next year, I wanted to beat my time. So no, I'm not going to go for a 17-minute 5K. I would have to train. That's outside of alignment. It might be too much. But if I just shoot for regular, I'm not going to grow. And so that's really what we're talking about here is abundance. Are you overly complacent right now and you're kind of chilling? Or are you overly spread thin where you are just burning the candle on every end and it's just too much? And we all need to either slow down or speed up our own treadmill based on our own consciousness capabilities and goals. And that's really what this episode was about.
Just as a final thought, I know when we tell our story, it's oftentimes the cool parts are that we quit our jobs and went all in on this. That isn't necessarily the advice that's not the advice I'd give to most people. Because the level of scarcity that it created was truly life-changing. And that's
it was detrimental.
It was detrimental. I always say it took pieces of me I'll never get back. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's the kind of necessity you want, but just know creating a life that has the right amount of scarcity, the right amount of abundance, the right amount of necessity really is what it is. The optimal amount of necessity for you, your goals, your fulfillment, your family, your friends, what you want out of this life experience. That is the extra next level nugget for this episode. Tomorrow, I jeffed us. Tomorrow for episode number 1548, there is no title. So I have no idea what we're going to talk about. So my apologies. Again, please give me grace. It's been a hell of a week. It's been a hell of a month because we're only a week into the month. So I'm sure it'll be valuable. We'll try to make it valuable. And I hope you have a wonderful Monday if you're listening to this on Monday. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay in your own unique sweet spot as you grow. Next Level Nation.